Good afternoon. I'm Clarice Summersall. I'm one of the senior administrators here at Montgomery College, and I'd like to welcome you to another presentation brought to us by Accenture. On behalf of the Board of Trustees and Dr. Pollard and faculty and staff at the institution, I'd like to welcome you to this special presentation dealing with presentation etiquette. We are in for a stimulating conversation with executives from Accenture. And I'd like to introduce them to you. Benjamin Ofori, who will be formally introduced to you. Ben. Alexandria, right next to Ben. And Nigel Stevens. They are, as I said, representatives from Accenture. The Accenture partnership started last fall, and we are very pleased. We are providing opportunities for the students who were not able to participate in the fall to have an opportunity to listen to the same presentations that were provided to primarily business students last fall. Mr. Stevens, Mr. Ofori, and Alexandria are here to share their expertise and energy with you. They work with their colleagues internationally, and they also present on the national stage on Capitol Hill. They bring a wealth of experience and expertise to this presentation. At the fall 2011 college opening meeting, Dr. Pollard shared our new mission statement, which reads in part, "We empower our students to change their lives, and we enrich the life of our community." Our partnership with Accenture provides a wonderful opportunity to empower you, our students, to examine your options for a future where you will be competing for jobs with people from Baltimore and Brazil, as well as Germantown and Germany. We live in a global economy, and being conscious of this fact and globally competitive are essential skills. Moreover, we are enriching the life of our Montgomery College community by launching this lecture series during this academic year. We are excited about embarking on a partnership with Accenture as part of its Skills to Succeed initiative, which plans to equip 250,000 people around the world by 2015 with the skills to get a job or build a business. With Mr. Stevens, Ben Ofori, and Alexandria giving up their time, talents, and energy to be with us today, what a tremendous opportunity for you to have a glimpse into the world of work through the lens of professionals who operate on the corporate and national stages. Many thanks to our Montgomery College internal committee for the partnership with Accenture, and Letitia Roberson from Accenture, who's also been working with us since last summer to launch the program. And now I'd like to introduce Dr. Jim Snezik, who will introduce the presenters for today. Thank you.
Hello and welcome. My name is Jim Snezik, and I'm the Dean of the Natural and Applied Sciences, Business, Management, and Information Sciences area of the Tacoma Park campus of Montgomery College. And we are pleased today to have three representatives from Accenture join us and tell us of their expertise. And our primary presenter is going to be Mr. Nigel Stevens. Nigel is a senior manager in Accenture's Office of Government Relations and has been with the company for 6 years. He and his colleagues in government relations serve as advocates for Accenture on Capitol Hill. Prior to joining the company, he served as a staffer in both the U.S. House of Representatives and the Senate. Joining him today is Mr. Benjamin Ofori. Ben is a subject matter expert in information security at Accenture Security Practice. He has worked with various government agencies, reviewing policies, and creating strategies to protect sensitive data and harden information technology systems. Recently, he's been working with Accenture's CIO to help create the Accenture Federal Practice in an ongoing modernization effort to realign the federal and commercial practices. Ben holds a dual master's degree. He has a master's in business administration and a master's in information technology from the Johns Hopkins University in Baltimore. And joining Nigel and Ben is Ms. Alexandria Kelly, who worked in talent and organizational performance within the intelligence community for the last 2 years, joining Accenture in November of 2011. Ms. Kelly currently supports the Defense Intelligence Agency as a talent management consultant. Prior to joining the intelligence community, she worked in the nonprofit industry in the areas of talent and change management. Ms. Kelly graduated from Oakland University from Rochester, Michigan, with a Bachelor's of Science in Human Resources Management. Let's welcome our speakers.
Good afternoon. How many of you guys have been through one of these presentations in the past? You've participated before? One? That's it? Two? Okay. Well, why are we here? We're here because Accenture is a company. Anyone heard about Accenture before? Do we know what we do? Okay, Accenture is a consulting firm. What does that mean? It means we don't make anything. We don't manufacture anything. There's nothing you're going to go to the store to buy that has Accenture's name on it. Accenture provides services and intellectual capital. That means the people are what we produce. The knowledge that the people have, the new ideas, the innovative ideas, that's what we deliver to our clients. And in doing so, you have to have a certain set of capabilities. So the reason why we're here and why Accenture is partnering with Montgomery College is because we are trying to make sure that you all have the skills to succeed. The skills that they're not going to teach you necessarily in a classroom on a regular basis, right? These are the things that you're going to have to utilize. You're getting the knowledge that you're getting from here, from the university. How do you then deliver that knowledge to make sure that your clients, our clients, understand and appreciate what you're bringing to the table? And one of those things are presentation skills. Okay? Guys, we're going to have a conversation today. Okay? So we're going to try to make this as interactive as possible. So can somebody give me some ideas on what types of presentations either they've had to give before or they think are out there that you would have to give in the business world? Just let me forewarn, if you don't raise your hand, I'm just going to start calling on people. Okay, go ahead.
Presentations?
Was that?
Sales presentations.
Sales presentations. Go ahead.
Persuasive.
Persuasive presentations.
Informative.
Yes.
Like business plans.
Business plans. Excellent. Motivation. About what is the format that you think most presentations, what's the structure of most presentations? Was that? Mostly PowerPoint presentations, okay. That's a lot of what we do in the consulting world. What else? What about the things that we like to call elevator speeches? Where you have 30 seconds to get someone's attention. 30 seconds to get them to understand what you want to discuss and convince them that they should give you more than 30 seconds. What about the 1-minute pitch? What about the meeting that you have with your staff? Not a presentation to a client, but just to other people on your team. Do you consider those presentations? You'll find that they have the same structure, the same goals, the same format, the same intent as a formal presentation where you're giving a PowerPoint. Okay? So what we're going to do today, we're going to go over some of the skills that we use on a daily basis. Let's go a page down here. Some of the things that we use on a daily basis in order to deliver our messages, in order to make sure that not only are we delivering messages internally, but we're also delivering them externally to our client base. Okay? Does anyone have any questions? All right, let's keep going. So we had talked earlier about some of the different kinds of presentations. Someone said earlier in persuasive. Who said persuasive? Okay. Give an example of a persuasive presentation.
Like to convince people to vote for you.
Convincing people to vote. I like your choice. As in from someone from the government relations office, I like that example. What else? To buy something, because you're trying to negotiate a price, right? Or to sell something, because you're trying to negotiate a fee. What else? Okay, let's go to informative. Give an example of an informative. You can give me an example of an informative presentation.
Business plan, I guess?
Business plan, because you're trying to give them an understanding of where you want to go, yes? What else?
Not really sure.
Okay.
Accounting presentation.
Accounting presentation, showing them numbers, showing them where the dollars are going. Accountability, yes.
A teacher, as far as presenting the lesson or something like that?
A teacher.
Sometimes.
Excellent, excellent. There was somebody else said something. A brochure. You could do a presentation of a brochure. Similar to the business plan, similar to the sales pitch, yes. Go ahead. What I'm doing at the moment? Yeah, okay, yes, yeah. Yes, good example. But oftentimes this is very, formal organization, informative versus persuasive. But even as you're giving an informative presentation, aren't you also trying to persuade them of something?
Yes.
Aren't you trying to persuade them that you know what you're talking about?
Yes.
Because if I came up here and I just kind of didn't really present, would you guys really think I know what I'm talking about?
You could be smart, but if you don't show it, it doesn't mean anything to the other people you're talking to.
Exactly. The content of your presentation could be absolutely perfect, but if you don't deliver it in a way that it connects with the audience, they're not going to understand what you're saying, they're not going to believe you, and they're not going to be persuaded that your information is correct. Right? So even in an informative presentation, you still have a section of persuasion in it. Correct? Okay. Go ahead.
In fact, a lot of people's information is incorrect, but they give such persuasive speeches that people believe them, along with the political candidates sort of.
Yes, that is absolutely correct. I will stay away from that one. But that's exactly the point. It's as much about your delivery as it is your content. Okay, so what we're going to go through the first half of the presentation, we're going to talk about how to put those things together, your content, your delivery, and then really the second half of the presentation, we're going to discuss some tips that you can use in order to get over some of the challenges that we all face when giving a presentation. Then we're going to break you guys up into teams. We're going to try to implement some of these suggestions in 30-second pitches and 1-minute pitches. And some of you brave souls are actually going to be presenting today. Thank you for volunteering. That was excellent. That was excellent. See, that's the kind of proactive leadership we need here. Okay. All right, so let's go ahead and get started. Yes. You go ahead. You can go ahead and start.
Do you want me to spot here? Okay. So because this is interactive, I'm not going to do this by myself. So, like you said, I'll be pointing out. But characteristics of effective presentation. And the first question is, what makes a presentation or presenter effective? Any ideas?
Preparedness.
Preparedness, that's very important. You have to be prepared. You can believe that we got on the phone together. We couldn't meet as a group physically, but we were on the phone last Friday, preparing, trying to figure out our audience, who we're going to be talking to. So we are prepared coming here today. Somebody raise their hand somewhere?
Confidence.
Confidence, that's important. And the more you try to deliver, the more confident you become. Language is key.
Knowledge of what to present.
Knowledge of what you present. You have to really know the subject.
You have to know what motivates the audience.
What motivates your audience, that's important, that's key. Especially you are starters. What we present here and how we bring this to you should be able to carry you through the next level. Next slide. So you taking over?
I'll take this.
Okay.
Yes. Tag. I'm in. All right. So a lot of it, there's two main parts when you're presenting. It's about what you're saying, so you know that the content that you're delivering is what you've done your research on and what you're presenting on.
Can you speak louder, please?
Sure. The second thing is delivery. So you need to make sure that you're able to deliver in a way that folks will accept, that they will respect, they can understand you, and then they are able to take what you are telling them and use it, or whatever they want you to do with that, whether it's persuasion or information or whatnot. So, these are the main items. Actually, when I took a public speaking class my freshman year in college, my instructor said, if you leave knowing anything, make sure you know that there's three main points. You gotta tell them what you're gonna tell them, you got to tell them, and then lastly, you have to tell them what you just told them. So it sounds very repetitive, but it's not. You wanna make sure you get your point across, that you're telling them in a very specific way, and then that gives you 3 opportunities to also tell them. So the first being, tell them what you're going to tell them. Does anyone like going to a class and you have no agenda or no intro? Does that ever happen? Well, that's probably one of the things that I hate most when I go to meetings, just because I never know what's going to go on, or I don't know what to expect. So that's a very easy thing that you can prepare. You know what you're going to talk about, and then your audience knows what you're going to talk about. Next being, tell them. So typically 3 points is what we recommend. So you don't overload your audience, you don't give them too much information at one time. Because if you have too much coming at you, you're just going to kind of forget the main points that the speaker would want you to take away. And lastly, tell them what you told them. You want to make sure you summarize what you've told them. Summarize what key points you want them to take away. And then it's also important to close with kind of a big ending that makes them continue thinking about it. So you don't want to just say, okay, I'm all of a sudden done, the presentation's over, goodbye. You want to make sure that you summarize it and that you give them something to continue thinking about. Now, opening is also a big thing where you want to kind of get them thinking. A lot of people start with questions. How can I help you? Or something bigger, why are we here? And that gets kind of the audience thinking, talking, engaged. So there's lots of different techniques for intro, but remember, body, 3 main points, and then summarize what you've told them. All right, 4 Ps. So these, I would argue that there's 2 more Ps that are very important here. But we'll talk about projection, making sure everyone can hear you. I'm mic, so I can't talk too loud. Okay, good.
Loud as you want.
Okay. Pitch, you want to make sure that your pitch is not too high, too low. These are all things that take practice, and that is one of the other P's that I mentioned. Because you really don't know how you're going to present. It's a lot of just, you got to practice. It's not something that you can control right off the bat. I would say if you have the opportunity, sign up for a public speaking class. There's other groups like Toastmasters that where basically all you do is you get up there and you speak and you practice, practice, practice. When I took my public speaking class freshman year, I actually had an instructor who videotaped me, which I hate. And of course I'm getting videotaped today. And then I got to take the video home and watch it to see what my pitch was like, if I could actually hear myself, because she would do it from the back of the classroom. And I realized I was a very soft speaker and I was very frigid. I would just stand at the podium. I didn't know and then it actually took me viewing that tape to realize that I should walk around, kind of move my hands, engage the audience, speak more clearly and loudly. That way, it just gave me the practice and the recognition that I needed to know that I wasn't presenting maybe the way I had envisioned it. So I recommend if you have the opportunity, practice with someone. They can give you feedback or videotape yourself. That also helps. Pace is also a very important thing. You don't want to speed through the presentation. Oftentimes I found with my clients, I gauge the pace on how they're taking in the information. If I know that they've got to run to a meeting, I'm probably going to adjust my pace to be a little faster or cut things out completely. It's very important to be able to gauge your audience and see if they're actually, 100% listening, 100% there, or if they need to be somewhere else, then you've got to maybe take out a point or two, or say, let's go over, one main point right now. I'm going to tell you what we're going to do, and then leave it at that, and then revisit it later. Pauses are also important. This is more if you're giving a serious speech. With my clients, I never have time to pause unless they want to interject something or give me more feedback. But everything's very, very fast. I know with consulting and when I'm actually getting some client FaceTime. So I would say pauses are an excellent thing to use when you can. There's an appropriate time to use them, but just use them sparingly. It also helps to use pause instead of saying, I don't really know what to think. Just take a moment, collect your thoughts, and that usually helps you. So, and it's an easy way to do it too. And then I would say the last P that I mentioned, besides practice, is passion. It's also important to love what you do, or to, if you're able to present on a topic that you care about, then that kind of shines through, and that will convince your audience that much more that you are that married to that subject, or that they will really take to heart what you are giving them the information.
Let me just jump in for 1 second on the pause issue, 'cause this is very, very vital. Even in your 30-second presentation, 30 seconds doesn't sound like a lot of time, does it? You'd be surprised how long 30 seconds can be if you're not delivering the right message. 30 seconds is a very long time, okay? So what you want to do is you want to think about, what is the purpose of what you're saying? Is it for you to say it, or is it for them to hear it? You ever been sitting in a classroom when the professor's in front of you and they're going so fast you can't keep up when you're taking notes? Well, if your hand can't move that fast, your brain's not moving that much faster, right? So you need to give people time to absorb what you're saying. So then you put a pause in your statement. That means each sentence you have, you've taken the time to make sure that there's content there, and you're making sure that each sentence is worthwhile. Because if not, then why say it? Right? So take the time when you're putting your content together to make sure that each sentence is conveying a message. And then pause to make sure they're actually hearing it. Okay? So it's very important as you're delivering these messages to keep these things in mind.
Thank you.
Yep. Next slides are very important also. And these keys help in the delivery. Eye contact. Now, when I first stood here, I was looking for faces that I can initiate contact with. And if I see somebody with a smiley face, I should engage that person for a moment, because that will help me put my message across. So as you deliver presentations, make sure you look in the room. If somebody is giving you a mean face, you might want to turn a little bit because that might distract you, but it's the truth. Hand and arm gestures are also very key. I mean, you see us standing here and we've been gesturing towards you guys, trying to let you understand what we're saying. If I come across with a message doing this, it's conveying something huge or something important. And if you haven't been paying attention to the politicians, as you were saying, when they're speaking on TV, you see them do things like this. Thumbs up. Because they're trying to get you to engage and understand what he's saying and for you to buy into it. So they do this. And that's very actually common with the ex-President Clinton. He was a southpaw, lefty, and he used to do that a lot. And he would do this and he would just captivate his audience. So that's very important too. Placement and movement of feet. Now you see us, we're not stuck at one place. And we stand with confidence. We move towards you. That's also very important. If I move towards you and I'm asking you a question or engaging you, you'll buy into what I'm telling you. So that's very important. Next slide. So these are key notes that we have to pay attention to as well. The notes on pause. You talked about pause already, right? So I'm not sure if we have to go through this as a checklist.
Let's actually, a lot of times you discussed earlier that when we were preparing for this presentation, we hadn't seen each other, right? So we have a company with 210,000?
Almost 40.
240,000 employees in 126 different countries. Montgomery College has 175 countries represented. Now, in the careers that you guys are heading towards, it's not going to be as easy as, you're sitting in front of people who are there waiting for you to give a presentation. You're going to be talking to people on the other side of the world. You're going to be talking to people, you're going to have a PowerPoint, they're going to have a PowerPoint, and you guys have to communicate and you have to get your message across. So using the pause and being, projecting your voice and doing some of the things that we're describing here are going to be very, very important, because a lot of times you're going to have language barriers. Who said language earlier? You have language barriers. So people may not be using English as a first language. You have to keep these things in mind, because that doesn't change the fact that you still have to get your point across, correct? When you're doing business, it doesn't matter what language it's in, it doesn't matter what time zone it's in. If you need to sell something, you need to sell it, period. So using hand gestures and some of these other things, and using pauses to get your point across, are even more important now, because you have all these other challenges. Okay?
So do not fidget. I'm not sure if we have enough time to go step by
We
step.
probably should break star breakers.
Okay.
Yeah, so we probably,
All right, we talked about practicing.
yeah.
This is
We'll take it. Go ahead.
okay, so everyone gets nervous. Everyone has some of these similar challenges when they go to present. Okay, dry mouth as I keep chugging water. Nervousness before you get in front of a group. Being prepared helps a great deal. Okay? Anyone else have challenges that they have with regards to public speaking, that they have some tips that they use? Oh, go ahead.
Sometimes I talk too loud when I'm publicly speaking.
Okay.
So people in the front audience get blasted.
Okay.
I don't know. It just happens automatically if I have the longer I speak for, the louder I get.
Okay.
It just automatically happens. I haven't really been able to keep that under control. But
Okay. How about pointing yourself in another direction? Because you still have to project. The people in the back of the room still have to hear you. So I know if I'm speaking like this and I'm standing here, it's going to be very different as if I haven't really changed my tone, but now I'm projecting to the back of the room. Go ahead.
Yes, sometimes it's always very easy when you're talking, and maybe making eye contact is becoming kind of difficult a little bit. You want to look at your forehead.
Look at the forehead.
You want
Yes.
to look at your forehead so that you can stay in contact with what you're trying to force to get straight.
Okay. Anyone else?
Yeah.
Go ahead.
I was gonna say, use icebreakers, that's what I do.
For example?
Crack a joke.
For example?
There's your joke.
So now we're going to discuss the key takeaways, right? I told you what you were going to hear. You heard it. You practiced it. Now you're going to tell me what the key takeaways are, right? So what are the two main forms of a presentation? Persuasive and informative. And even though it's an informative presentation, you still have to persuade them that you know what you're talking about. Okay? So even though it's informative, it still has some persuasive content in it. Okay? What are the three major portions of a presentation that you want to make sure you deliver? Okay? The body. And in those three portions, you do what? Tell them what you're going to tell them. Tell them what you told them. Tell them what the issue is. And then you... Okay. Now, some of the things that we often face, everyone faces when they're going to have to give a presentation, the nervousness, the challenges with regards to speaking too quickly, speaking too slowly, speaking too loud, speaking too quietly. Okay? Some of the same challenges that we all face. what are some key takeaways that we can use, some skills we can use in order to make sure we're delivering our message effectively? Interact. What else?
Know your audience.
Know your audience. Do your research.
Practice.
Practice, practice, practice. What about some physical things while you're giving a presentation?
Project to the back of the room.
Project to the back of the room.
Somebody says
Pause. Eye contact. Excellent. Okay? So these are some of the skills that you're going to have to face whether you're giving a presentation to a room or, again, you're doing what we often do. You're talking to a microphone and a laptop to someone in another country. You do it on Skype. You do it online. You do these things. These are the modes of communication that we're going to be facing in the future. Because, again, we could be in Baltimore or Brazil.
Or Brazil, Germantown, or Germany.
And in this world, in this economy, where we're headed, and I can tell you from my own personal experience, it's going to be more Germany than it is Germantown. Because the people who are in Germantown with you are also talking to Germany and Jerusalem. Okay? Questions?
I have a question.
Yes.
Mr. Stevens, I know that you present on the national stage all the time and that you go to Capitol Hill. Tell us about your feelings when you first started going to Capitol Hill and had to present in comparison to the expertise that you exhibit now as a presenter.
Practice, practice, practice. Okay? I've been in situations where I had to present and I walked up in front of a room and forgot everything that I was supposed to say.
What do you do?
Well, there you go. The challenge was not that I didn't know my subject matter, was that I got so nervous that I psyched myself out. And so those times I've learned, because it still hasn't gone away, the nervousness is still there when you start. What I've learned to do, one of the tips that I use, is I turn my back to the audience before I go up, and I take 3 deep breaths, through the nose and out the mouth, to try to get that down. And I go in and I start my discussion, and I try to have more of a conversation than a presentation, so that usually gets rid of some of my nervousness. But it happens to everyone. Go ahead.
Have you found yourself in a place where maybe the hand gestures that you use are not good, like in some other countries or sometimes?
I've had to actually practice using hand gestures. I had a bad habit for a while, grabbing the podium and holding onto it so tight that people paid more attention to the fact that I was shaking the podium. Now this is sturdy. I mean, you've seen the ones that are, little pillars, and I'm gripping it, my knuckles are white, and people are paying more attention to the fact that I'm nervous and gripping onto the pillar to the podium than they are to what I'm saying.
I think what he's asking is there's certain hand gestures that you use more than others because having this many nationalities, my hand gesture means something else.
Right.
My students just studied Accenture and International Global Affairs in Business, and I was a former diplomat, so I was telling them that sometimes certain gestures or certain things that you do can convey a bad meaning or negative meaning to a different culture. So probably that's where he's coming from.
I try to stay away from pointing. If you notice, I try to do things like this, and my hand gesture is actually facing the ground, not towards someone, and I try not to convey, because usually the physical activity can seem aggressive, and depending on who your audience is, that could interfere with your entire message. What's up? What, in the back?
That's when you get the point, like, to know your audience.
Right.
So you know exactly how to use your hand, right? If you cannot.
Right. There are sometimes, you've seen when Barack Obama starts making a point sometimes, he gets into the professorial mode and he starts doing things like this to make his point. Can't really do that all the time. That's oftentimes one of those things where pointing at people can often be interpreted in a negative fashion.
Yeah, and you remember I was talking about politicians doing this? just pay attention. Tonight, there will be the results of the 400 delegates, right, for the Republican
Yes.
Party. Just watch CNN, and the winner will be talking, and you'll see them do that. Just pay attention.
They actually practice that.
Yeah.
Practice pointing with your thumb and laying with your hands versus pointing. Go ahead.
Yes. Have you ever found yourself facing a very tough crowd?
This afternoon, actually. No, it's yes. You're going to face it. You're going to be in a position where you're trying to sell business to a client that is trying not to either not purchase what you're trying to sell, or, you know, it's economics. I'm trying to get the most value out of you for the least amount of price. Okay? You're going to face those challenges. But a lot of these things come with, you know, how do you get over that? You get over that and you become more persuasive by doing your homework, by knowing your content, and being able to deliver in such a fashion that they know that what you're delivering is not a fee for service, it is value. That's what you're bringing to the table, is value. And what you bring as an individual is value. And that's what you're trying to convey. Even in your 1-minute informative discussion, it's value. You know what you're talking about, you have an understanding of the issues, you can deliver it in a way that they can understand, and that they would appreciate bringing your value to them. And that could be for a job interview, that could be in a classroom, that's going to be on the job. The people who are on your team need to know that you're bringing value, and that they want you to be with them and working on this project and delivering with them. Okay? 2 more questions.
Maybe during the presentation, if you ask a question that you cannot answer, is it okay to say, I don't know?
Yes, that is a great question. There is nothing worse than somebody who's trying to, I'm trying not to use the word BS, but you lose,
Finesse a response.
yes, thank you. You lose credibility because people will understand very quickly that you are not able to answer the question. And there's nothing wrong with saying, I don't know the answer to that, I'll go and get the answer and come back to you at a later time. That's appreciated a lot more than trying to do a dance around it. Because the client will know. The people who are listening, who have been paying attention, will know. Okay.
How do you take into account the size of the audience that you're presenting to? Whether it's different, you know, you're selling to 7 clients or speaking to a room like this, like what things you do differently? Versus like small.
For the larger audiences, I try to focus to a section of the room, not necessarily on individuals, because a lot of times you'll be, if you're speaking to 100, 200 people, you're often on a stage, so you can't necessarily see people's faces, but you can talk to a different section of the room. And you'd be surprised, when you're looking at a section of the room and you're projecting from far away, the people in that section will see you looking at them, and they will be engaged. Because that's the real issue, is really getting people engaged in what you're saying.
Do you like ask more questions in the smaller group or talk more, you know, as far as like a conversation or, you know, versus a big group where you have to just do bullet point type things?
In my experience, the larger the group, the less interactive it becomes. So just think about that. Even when you're working with a team, there are people, you know, you could be on a team of 10 and 3 people are in the room with you and others are on conference calls. But you still want to make sure that you involve those people in the conversation, because it's very easy to lose people's attention when they're not physically in front of you. All right. Is that the last question? One more.
Do you have any internship opportunities?
Yes, we do. Yes, we do. And so it's definitely on the website, but then we will also be following up with your leadership here. Okay? Thank you very much. I appreciate your time, and I hope to see you guys at the next event that we're having.